us today. Over to you, Tudor.
Thank you, Kuram. Thanks everyone for getting the time to join us here. 1 second, so I can share my screen. Hopefully it's visible for everybody.
Yeah.
So thanks again for getting the time today. I'm really excited to talk about IoT security and what we are doing here, and our strong belief that this side of IoT security, it's a key component of a true and serious zero trust approach if you're interested in adopting one, right? Which makes perfect sense. And moreover, right, how our Prisma SASE solution, right, together with IoT, it's a really nice and smart implementation that makes things very efficient on one side and very easy to manage on the other side. Right? So now starting with the beginning, right? Probably no secret here that the digital transformation is not only touching us, the users and the apps, right? We all know right now you can work from anywhere, from your tablet, from your laptop, from your phone, etc., in a coffee shop, etc. The apps are also moving all around. But the same digital transformation, it's also influencing, right, the IoT and OT environments as well. And right, these are broad terms, right? IoT, it's quite a broad term, right? So just sharing some examples, right? What we mean by that, right? They could be your assets in your office, right? Things like printers, conference room systems, thermometers, etc., right? In a healthcare industry, right, IoT can mean different things, right? They can mean maybe your scanner, maybe a blood pump, maybe all kind of systems that they might do investigations with, etc. In the manufacturing verticals, right, these devices can be very different, right? But it's all clear that in all these areas, right, the proliferation of these devices, for good reasons, is accelerating on a high pace, right? Obviously, everybody wants to reduce costs to enhance the processes, etc. So more and more automation, which means more and more smart devices everywhere. It's very common these days. This is great for the business, right? But along with this proliferation of all these smart devices everywhere, right, that means your attack surface increases as well, right? And just some numbers there, right? Sure, predictions are predictions, right? But what's clear is that we are talking about billions and billions of such devices being added constantly in your networks, right? So that absolutely means that if you're serious about zero trust, we should pay deep attention into these, right? Every single device, it's an attack vector, right? A potential attack vector. There are some numbers that are supporting these guesses, right? Some high number of hacking attempts would use one way into the attack chain, an IoT device, right? Either as the entry point or a weak point in the chain of the attack, maybe trying to move laterally from there, etc. So multiple reasons to look closely at these, right? And another big challenge besides the constantly increasing number, right, which is a challenge in itself. The other side of it is that many of these devices and assets, right, have a lot of challenges, right? How often would you patch your security camera, right, sitting on the wall there, or your printer, or some device in a healthcare system, right, that might be sitting there for years, right? So there, again, these devices are typically fallen behind in terms of patching, in terms of security patching, in terms of using encryption in all their communication, in terms of fixing their vulnerabilities, right? Closing ports, putting strong passwords there, changing the default passwords that a vendor is delivering these devices with. So all these things, especially since very often these devices might be managed by different teams in an organization. Maybe it's not the regular IT teams and security teams which are watching after these devices. All these vulnerabilities are very, very likely to happen and be present in your network, which means very significant doors slightly open for the bad actors out there. So obviously, all these things, right, would need help from security vendors like ourselves, right, in addressing such challenges, right? And there are common sense reasons why some others are having a hard time addressing these things, right? So first things, everything starts with the ability to discover all these devices, right? Obviously, you can secure something that you cannot see, or you are not aware those devices or assets exist in your environment, right? As I was saying, many cases, right? These devices are managed, installed by different teams. You might not be even aware that a certain monitoring device is being attached to your network, right? So discovery, it's key. Besides discovery, right, you need a tool that is able to highlight all the vulnerabilities that are linked to that particular device, right? Even if you might know that, hey, I have this new sensor there, this vendor, etc. If it's a manual process to go and chase what are the vulnerabilities, what's the right patching that you need to apply, etc., right? That's a tremendous work that's not realistic, right? And also, last but not least, if you have point solutions that are helping you with these challenges, right? Again, picking point solutions from different vendors, you might have a hard time integrating a meaningful workflow to address these challenges. You might have, let's say, pick a vendor that's helping you with the visibility, right? Maybe you throw some sensors in your network, you start discovering these devices, right? Fine, that's the first point, but how do you enforce these then policies and the true zero trust approach based on what you see there, right? You need a different vendor, etc. So that's why we believe that addressing these IoT and OT specific challenges, right, are coming down to the overall zero trust approach that an organization should have in mind. And no secret, right? Core principles behind zero trust would be the ability to, after you discover things, right, to granularly control and apply least privilege access principles, right? You need the ability to be very specific in where a certain device like this, right, has access to, right, or under which conditions, etc., right? So this ability is key. The fact that you assign trust into one of these assets, right, at the beginning doesn't mean that trust should stay there unchanged forever, right? Maybe new vulnerabilities are constantly being discovered on devices. So the constant evaluation of this trust that you might put at some point in these assets, it's important, right? And no secret, right? All these devices, you definitely need a strong solution that would protect you against these such threats that might be linked to these devices. So we strongly believe, right, our Prisma SASE platform, it's a great solution to address these IoT-related challenges, right? I can't really talk about Prisma SASE these days without kind of highlighting the recent recognition we got from Gartner, right, that we are the only leaders in the SASE MQ that they just released a couple of days ago. So that's another kind of stamp, not that we needed one, but one more proof that the platform play and having everything as much integrated as possible, right? in terms of networking and security together, including IoT, it's a very useful solution, right? That helps customer big time. As I'm showing here, right, Prisma SASE, besides the security stack in the cloud that's taking care of things like ZTNA, right, for private app access, etc., includes definitely the SD-WAN, right, our Prisma SD-WAN offering. And across all these things, right, the whole platform, right, we have the cloud delivered services where IoT security is a truly integrated piece of it, right? Besides all the other well-known services, right, like sandboxing, our wildfire, DNS security, etc. Obviously, they're not like independent boxes. They are all working together to solve customer challenges. Now, double-clicking on IoT security, and again, my session is not really to go deep into IoT security specifically, but to highlight some interesting things that we are doing to really make these IoT security and Prisma SASE work together successfully, right? But before going there, right, just want to highlight that, right, our strong IoT security offering is great at multiple things, but just highlighting a few. As I mentioned, right, everything starts with deep visibility. So we have the ability to, by looking at traffic, looking at different things, we'll discover the very accurately your inventory of such devices, and not just highlighting the inventory, but we can tell you a lot of information about each and every device that we are discovering, right? In terms of the risk it's posing to your network, behavior, highlight any abnormal things that we are seeing, highlighting any vulnerabilities that are well known, so you can go and take care and patch those devices, etc. So very accurate inventory and a huge contextual information that's very useful for the next step, right? Once you have the visibility, you want to control things. So right, no secret in Prisma Access and Prisma SASE in general, right? We have these strong concepts of app ID, user ID, device ID. Device ID is very relevant in this conversation, where we can be very, very granular in assigning only the access that it's really needed to any user, and in this case, more specifically, device that we see in the network, right? Least privilege access, that's probably the principle that we are checking here specifically. That's critical, right? Limiting the blast radius, limiting the attack surface as well, right? And the third bucket, right, last but not least, sure, you discover things, you enabled the granular control, but even after that, right, for the traffic that you are still allowing, right, for such devices, you want to apply the best possible threat prevention that's available out there, right? And Palo Alto is doing a great job there, even considering day zero threats, etc., things that currently, let's say, we might not have a signature for, right? We are still being able, applying AI, ML, etc., to still deal with even very advanced day zero threats that are coming up every day. This is great, right, in terms of what IoT security can do. Now, where and how can I use it, right? And that comes hand in hand with NG firewalls and Prisma Access. That's very important, right? I'm talking specifically about Prisma SASE today, but it's very important to understand that the same IoT security can be fed with data coming from both worlds, right? Which is very realistic in these days, right? Very likely a customer might have some physical firewalls and adopt SASE as well. So having the ability to feed IoT security with data coming from both points, it's critical. And the other way around, right? Why once I take enforcement decisions, the ability to apply a consistent policy across both worlds, NG firewalls on-prem or VM series, sure, as well, and Prisma Access at the same time. But what's more interesting, and that's something I want to highlight, We are also bringing the Prisma SD-WAN to the table here, and I won't go into details at this point. I have a couple of slides that might help understand what we're doing there with Prisma SD-WAN, which is quite unique, to be honest. I might have a abrupt jump into some more technical slides, but I guess it's these are important to highlight, right? The constant innovations that we're bringing in the IoT/SASE space, and the transition would start with the visibility that IoT needs to provide at the core of everything else, right? That's the key. Once I know and discover things, then I can control, then I can apply threat prevention, etc. But talking about visibility, right? How do I get visibility when I merge IoT security and the SASE solution like our Prisma Access? And I have here a couple of very basic high-level topologies, right, to demonstrate the point. In many scenarios, right, I have branches attached to Prisma Access securing and doing all the great inspection that we are doing. IoT security being a tight component into the list of services that we apply to the assets and devices. So for traffic that it's following this green arrow here, everything's great. Prisma Access has full visibility into all the traffic that these assets are exchanging. I can very well discover my inventory, apply all the policies I want to such devices, right? But there's a challenge, right? And we acknowledge it. And it's very straightforward, right? Prisma Access, like any other SASE solution, it sits in the cloud, right? And for good reasons, helps with elasticity. It has coverage all over the place, etc. I won't go into all the SASE advantages, but obviously, right? It's a service, so it's sitting in the cloud, quite far from my branch offices, right? And by branch, I mean could be a hospital, could be an office, right, as well. It's just a kind of a generic term. So I was saying that for traffic that's going out there, either to a private data center or some controller I might have in the cloud, right? I have full visibility within SASE into this traffic. But there is still some traffic that these devices and assets might generate locally, the traffic that would stay in the branch. So for that, right, Prisma Access alone in the cloud might have a hard time to get visibility. Our platform could come and have a strong play there, right? As I was saying, our NG firewalls and Prisma Access can work in tandem, and both can on one side feed our IoT security with the proper information to help an accurate inventory discovery. And the reverse of that, right, whatever policy I want to enforce coming as a recommendation from IoT, I can very well do again in both worlds with all the consistency I need. Again, so that's a very, very strong offering, given that these NG firewalls include here either hardware firewalls, VMCs, etc. Right? These can solve use cases in hybrid worlds, which are very, very common with many of our customers. And so very strong offering as is in this diagram. But obviously, again, talking about the reality in the field, right? There might be cases where I might have a very tiny branch where a firewall, I might not have a firewall in there, right? And there's still significant IoT or assets traffic happening locally in that particular branch, right? I want visibility ideally into that traffic as well. So again, applying the richness of our and the completeness of our SASE solution, right? We have access on one side, and also Prisma SD-WAN as a component of our SASE, right? SD-WAN means we have a presence in every branch, or likely have presence in every branch. So why not use SD-WAN as to help and bring in extra visibility for our IoT, and not only, right? But here today, IoT is the topic. So we added functionalities on our SD-WAN ions, where when an IoT license is present and activated along a Prisma Access tenant, right? The SD-WAN starts generating significant traffic, significant logs for traffic that it's local to the branch, right? And these logs become critical information that IoT security can start parsing, and that means very often a new set of devices that are being identified, and from that point, obviously controlled, etc., with our IoT security. So again, covering a brand new set of use cases where we use our complete SASE solution, right? Access and SD-WAN as a tandem, bundled with the powerful IoT security that was already out there. So that's really powerful as well. In terms of configuration, right? I was talking about you can offer all these cool features, right? But if it's complex to manage, right, customers might either not use it, right, or they might get in trouble configuring things, right? Talking about security, networking, now IoT security as well, things can go complex quite fast. So in this case, right, this visibility that SD-WAN is bringing to the table, it's a practically one knob thing, right? As long as you have a SASE access plus SD-WAN plus IoT deployment, right? It's about enabling just one knob that would turn your SD-WAN device into I don't want to let's call it a sensor, but it's not that term can mean different things. But an additional point where IoT can get critical information into discovering your local devices. And as you can see, I'm highlighting here our management portal, right, for SASE, which has both sides of the world, right? Access configuration, it's on the top, right? SD-WAN, it's here. So everything it's in one portal. Again, talking about simplicity and merging all the use cases together for the best admin experience. So I was talking about SD-WAN giving us extra visibility now in the local branch traffic, which is again critical for IoT. But how about this scenario, right? Where even at the SD-WAN, even if it's present to the branch, it might not be always in the path of these assets traffic, right? But we ideally like to discover such devices as well that are very quiet and talking just very locally, if I can call it this way, deep in the branch. So what we are coming with, right, very soon, it's an extra function that the SD-WAN can perform, right? We call it, let's say, SNMP crawler. The official name might change. But what we do here, right, since we are not in the path of this deep branch traffic, we also build the ability to query the networking devices that are in the path of this traffic, right? And just to throw some examples there, right, we can query via SNMP, which is, again, very common networking management protocol, right? Things like, hey, give me the ARP tables of these devices, give me the MAC address table. And from there, right, we can stitch new things together, right? Things like, hey, this is the MAC address. It might give you some hints about the vendor. Doesn't mean that I'll completely trust that information, right? Because MACs can be spoofed, etc. But obviously, that's a brand new set of information that I can now get in scenarios where beforehand either access or the SD-WAN wasn't in the path of this traffic, right? And again, we're talking about maybe small branches where a firewall might not be realistic to be placed out there. So again, this is bringing a brand new set of information which contributes a lot to the accuracy of the IoT inventory discovery, which stays at the core of everything else, right? And again, we have very smart ways to do this discovery, right? There is again, without going into the details, and by the way, right, please stay tuned. We plan to have a follow up with detailed demos, end-to-end demos, once this function comes GA. I won't mention any timelines here, since it's about a roadmap thing, but again, very, very soon. But for now, right, I'm still able to highlight that this discovery, right, has a lot of knobs. You can either go with the very automated smart option, right, where all the ions are probing their local branches, or tons of options, right, on how, depending on, maybe you might have some firewalls there, you might want to have a strict control on how often this discovery should happen, from what sources, etc., right? So we took into account all these real life restrictions, right, that customers might need to deal with to make this a really feasible solution. So very powerful access plus SD-WAN plus IoT story out there. I think I raised your interest, right, and prove that just having a point solution might solve you some issues, right? But at the high level picture, right, ideally you should have an integrated end-to-end solution that can help you, one with discovery, and also with the consistent enforcement of whatever policy you want to push out there. Just to recap, right, in terms of our powerful IoT offering, again, that's quite unique in the SASE market, right, and the maturity of our solution, I believe. Especially I can speak in general about IoT, but specifically into the SASE market, I believe there's no equivalent in terms of what we can do out there. Everything starts with visibility. There's a lot of ML. All this it's great to have all these sources of information, right? But what do you do with that, right? A lot of ML applied there to pick up meaningful information and look at behaviors, protocols, etc. That helps us create this accurate inventory in a quite short time, right? Second thing, right? SASE, it's all about zero trust, right? So at the core of zero trust stays the least privilege access principle, right? Where device ID, which means the ability for me to say, hey, my printers shouldn't go talk to some outside domains that I don't control, right? They might need to go get some updates from this or that specific URL. So I should be able with a simple policy to enforce such device ID based policies, right? Without dealing with extra complexity, me chasing IPs, MACs, etc., right? Just very user friendly device based policies are key for true zero trust implementation. And sure, well, I can't really talk about zero trust without highlighting the importance of the threat prevention, right? And threat prevention can mean multiple things, right? This is probably the core of what Palo Alto Networks does best, right? That's our DNA out there. So no, I won't insist too much on that, but that's key to a real IoT solution. Maybe coming back to my core takeaway, right, that I would like to highlight out of this session. We talked the topic, right, that we want to share out there. It's that for us, IoT, which is on its own a very powerful solution, used together with the Prisma SASE, right, which has access and SD-WAN now merged together, along with the NG firewalls, where it can be a very, very strong offering, right? Truly securing your assets inventory out there. It very likely you might be in a hybrid world, so we have let's say we are able to pick up data in the cloud, pick up data from on-prem environments in different shapes or forms, different use cases, analyze it, and then based on your decisions, again, enforce things consistently across both worlds, right? Cloud and on-prem. And again, at the core of our IoT solution, right, stay principles like, hey, you might not want additional sensors in your network, right? Very often customers are saying, hey, don't throw me another box, another VM, another sensor in my branch, right? I want to keep things simple, as much as possible, condensed. So that's exactly the path we are going. And that means that reflects into the cost to our customers, cost of management, and also, right, an additional box comes also with new security risk, which we want to simplify as well, right? So that's summarize what I wanted to pass out there, and the fact that our IoT strong solution on its own merged with our SASE provides a very, very complete and a true end-to-end solution to secure your assets and devices, regardless of their flavor, right? I was talking about enterprise, could be medical, could be manufacturing areas as well. With that, I'll pause here and then open it up for any Q&As. And Khurram,